And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another recap review of the hit HBO Max show. And just like that, it's your guy Lucas with my amazingly talented, glitchy co host here, Amaya. What's going on this evening?
Y'all, let me tell you how difficult it is to look here. Okay, I need y'all to understand. Like, y'all can't see me because I'm using this background, but here is where I'm looking at, and Lucas is over here. And I got two monitors, so Lucas is over here. Y'all, it's driving me nuts already, but I'm gonna do my best. If I see my eyes going every which way, just know that that's why.
Exactly. This is the dedication you get from Big Gold Belt when we do recap reviews. No matter what, no matter how stormy it get, it feels like the Wicked Witch is about to drop a house on somebody out there, but we are still here to give you episode seven's review. So let's jump immediately into it as we start off with Carrie as she arrives at Duncan's place to tell him just how amazing the first chapter of his book is, and almost reassuring him like he has absolutely nothing to worry about. It's weird because this is not much to talk about here. All I'm going to ask you is, have you ever had someone reaffirm your work before when you've doubted it?
That's a good question. I would say yeah. I would say yeah because or even like for me at work, I love to create forms. Like I'm a
Mhm.
format person. Okay. I'm a format queen. I'm just gonna take that title. Like you give me something and tell me that needs to be formatted. I'm a format the hell out of that. Between Canva, Microsoft Word, and everything else that you get to use, Google Forms, whatever. Like,
Yeah,
but it's nice to have somebody come behind me and be like, oh, this is super helpful, or like this really worked for me. So
yeah.
yeah, I'll say yes.
Hey, it's always good to have somebody reassure you that what you've put your heart and soul into has been great and it's something that people will enjoy. Speaking of enjoying, I know this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but someone asked in the comments last week, yes, Miss Amaya has a book. Yes, it's available on Amazon. And yes, I'm going to make her right now say the name of the book so people can go get it on Amazon.
What? Yeah. The name of the book is called Midnight Confessions. I'm officially working on part dose. But yeah, Midnight Confessions are my desire. If you use my name, it's easier to find.
Yes, yes. As I posted it in there in the chat when someone asked me about it, or they asked us, and I said, "Oh no, here's the book. Here's the Amazon link. Go check it out. It's great. I still have my signed copy. Even
You
though I
know
want
what's
another signed
funny
copy."
is like there's so many comments, bro. There's so many comments. I be trying to go in there. I'm like, damn, like I really gotta take a good solid 2 hours to you know like respond to everything. But yeah, it's definitely crazy.
There's a lot of comments down there telling us that they don't watch the show, but they watch us, which we are grateful for. Even though you could watch the show also. But next up, we get, and we're gonna loop these two things in together because it's not much to talk about with the first one, and that is we get the sad news that Diego has broken up with Lily. We kind of saw this kind of foreshadowed in the last episode. That's why she didn't want to go glamping and was so desperate to spend time with Diego. But then in the follow up scene, we get the girls as they're just sitting around talking about Lily's first breakup and how hard and reminiscing about their own first breakups. And at the same time, we get a visit in Anthony's shop from Giuseppe's mom. Not going to ask you to remember your first breakup. That would be cruel and highly
I
unnecessary.
remember it though. Like
Oh,
it
go ahead.
was
Well, go ahead then.
yeah, I mean I was 16, right? I was 16. He got locked up and went to juvie. I mean, that's pretty much the breakup right there. Right now, we're talking about the one that hurt. Right, that's different. But yeah, no, I mean for real, I think that probably that did hurt though, because obviously I really did like him and before he got locked up. And so yeah, it was hurtful because you're thinking again in that space of like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
is my person. And I don't know how, what, thinking back on it, it's like, yo, how did we even get there at like 16? Like thinking that that was going to be the it person. Not quite sure, but yeah, still hurtful, but not enough to lounge, right? But also we live in black households. That's not even an option. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
that's unfortunate. I'm sad, but we got things to do and places to go. So yeah, that's pretty much how I recall it.
Look here, at least you're not as fast as I was. My first breakup, I was 10. She was 9.5. I remember the breakup. I absolutely was in love with her. We were going to get married. We played house all the time. I didn't understand why we couldn't be together. And shout out that at this point we still know each other 30 plus years
Wow,
later.
that
It's
is
it's
cool.
absolutely crazy unto itself. But again, you're right about being in a black household and not being able to lamp around about being depressed over a breakup. My youngest baby, when she got her heart broken for the first time, she was so sad. And all I kept on telling her is, yeah, we're gonna just get up and go somewhere. We're not gonna just let you be sad over some guy. So we do see that later on in
Yeah.
the episode with Rock and Lily and their interactions with one another. But let's talk about the Giuseppe mom, Gia, of it all. And I want to focus on her in this entire episode, just from the way she comes across. Now, in their first interaction, we see how she immediately just judges Anthony based off of the shop, telling him, "Oh, so you sell sex? Look at the uniforms you have them in. This is clearly selling sex." Then we see the way she develops relationships with everyone else in here, going to lunch with Carrie and talking to Carrie, having everyone else call her Gia, and having Anthony call by her full name. And then later on in the episode, we get the pivotal scene between them two where she brings up kind of her issue is that Giuseppe is young and Anthony is old, and she does not see that as a good thing that someone old should be pining over someone so young. So, what I'm going to ask you about, and I'm not going to ask you to use any personal experience because this is kind of new. What are your thoughts on significant others' mothers and how to best reel in that relationship, especially when you want to establish something the way Anthony does here?
Man, first of all, I'm laughing on so many different things. I'm laughing about, if somebody significantly older, like what is significant, right? I believe
Maybe
that
to bring that up
I believe
because
it. Um, no, you know what? I think that it's a lot easier to develop a relationship with someone when they are open to you, when they are closed off and they immediately have a distaste or a disliking for you. It's a lot harder. Like, and I think that I've probably encountered I probably encountered that maybe once, and not even it wasn't really, it had nothing to do with me. It had more to do with him, but she just wasn't as kind as she could have been. Um I could instantly tell that this was about to be the case because she
Yeah,
was just very. But we also talked about the shop or the bakery kind of being very sexual, right? Like,
sexual. Yeah.
so
Mhm.
it's not like it's not true, or some elements of it per se. I think that it's not nice. It's not nice to for your child to bring home somebody that they absolutely love and adore, and for you to like just shit on that person. Like, it's not. I just don't. It's never good. But for me, all I'm always thinking about, like, are you willing to not even really risk, but like to put a dent or a stain on your relationship with your child based on who
Mm,
they fell in love with? And I just think that it's not technically, it's not, it's like parents can do whatever they want at the end of the day. But I think your child's happiness matters more. But I definitely will say that if you want to build a relationship with your mother-in-law, father-in-law, or
yeah.
just your person's family, no matter what the relationship level is, that person also has to be open to you. And if they're closed off to you, then it's practically,
Yeah.
a stone wall. And I'm a big advocate for I'm not going where I'm not wanted. So if you
Mhm.
treat me a certain kind of way, um it's about protecting myself at that point. So yeah.
They think that's the best way to put it. And it's clear to be honest here. Giuseppe's mother is selfish from the beginning. She is extremely selfish. The point that to me as a parent, you don't at least go out your way to understand why your child loves this person, that's your fault. I don't say you gotta like the person, but find out why they love the person, because maybe that can help foster at least a relationship that establishes communication. Again, you don't always have to like people. Some people will rub you wrong. That's perfectly fine. But then a lot of parents have to also understand, in this instance, I'm not in a relationship with you. I'm in a relationship with your child.
Right.
I don't need to have a relationship with you to be with your child. That is for your child to have to clear up. And I think that's where we get some of the conflict here, because it feels like at times Giuseppe is just in the clouds. Like he's not fully noticing the disrespect, or that she's hiding it from him.
Yeah, I definitely I felt that. It's I did feel that, especially at the scene of the birthday party when she says she wants to
Yes.
stay another week and he doesn't. He asked her why, but he's not really fully grasping like where is Anthony? Like where like what you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like so things for me that stood out and I was like, okay, like so where's your partner?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's also a codependent relationship too, because
Hmm.
he's kind of turning a blind eye. I think that he's very aware of it, but I don't think that he wants to acknowledge it just yet.
It's that hate to say this for men everywhere. It's that mama's boy syndrome. And it kicks in for a lot of men when you turn into mama's boy and you just are oblivious, or you pretend to be oblivious to mom's actions because you don't want to upset mom. But it can't be at the expense of the person that you're with, that you believe that that's going to be okay. And that's what we kind of have here between them two. It's going to be an interesting dynamic because Anthony is not a soft person. And we see from, again, their conversation at the end, it was very clear with him putting his foot down and about how he thinks this should work between them. And Gia has decided that she wants no parts of it with Anthony. And she kind of decided that from the beginning, but also a key element of her deciding that she doesn't like Anthony has to do with Anthony's appearance.
Yes, I was
Because you
going.
remember when she thought it was the other bread guy, she was perfectly fine with that. But Anthony is the more flamboyant member of the community, and I think that's also what she doesn't like. So it's just going to be interesting to see how they play that moving forward. But next up, we get Miranda and Carrie as they're walking and they're talking about throwing Charlotte a birthday party. As Carrie is very adamant, this is something Charlotte needs. And as anyone will tell you, when you're that adamant around your friends about another friend needing something, it has to be because something is wrong. And Miranda attempts to find out through naming everyone in the family if something's wrong. And Carrie decides to lie and say, it's Mr. Richard Burton, and he has a terminal tumor. He's dying, so that's why we need to throw the party. All Mr. Burton aside here, what I'm going to ask you is, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to lie to maintain someone's secret from another friend?
Yeah, absolutely. And not the lie I would have liked to keep secret either. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting part about this, is
Mhm.
because it's something Carrie definitely wants to tell everybody, because she does feel like Charlotte needs a support system. But this is Harry's wishes. We do see how it plays out later on the episode, which is my favorite scene of this episode. But here, again, it's just a very brief moment of comic relief. Next up, we get Seema as she goes to, I'm assuming, and if I'm wrong, people in New York, and Amaya, correct me, this clearly was a Dominican shop, or it
Um,
looked like one.
it it definitely looked like one, but listen, you popping gum, you got these clickety clack nails. You are not doing my eyelashes, okay? You are not. And as y'all see, y'all know I still got my eyelashes done from the wedding. I ain't playing, but I'm not playing them games. No, no. As soon as he said, I said, "Up, nope, I'm out of here." Girl, run for the hills. When he said, or they or whomever, when they were like, "Why didn't you take an Uber?" That was your cue to take an Uber wherever your expensive ass flag check was and get the hell up out of Dodge. Because no.
It, I think someone put in the comments last week, and I think this is just playing more off of Sema of it is surprising that we've seen her be this high value real estate agent for these 2 seasons, and now it's coming across as she may be someone with little to no financial security here. So she could possibly have been spending as fast as she was getting, which is insane to be in a position where, as something as simple as you can't go to your regular Lash Tech because you can't afford your Lash Tech anymore. So
First
then
of
you had to go
all,
the cheap route.
I mean, how I'm gonna just say it's very possible that she was spending way above her means,
Hmm.
because I feel like a good lash tag gonna maybe run you like, let's just say 250. We talking about New York, so I'm gonna say it's on the higher end of 250. Now, that's on the high end, okay? Um, I just feel like this is one of those moments where, because playing devil advocate, maybe she's like, I got to cut back on my budget because she didn't get the loan, right? So she's
Hmm.
saying, how can I cut back? I don't need the driver. I don't really need all the expensive clothes and shoes and XYZ. But yeah, very, I like this though. I like it because it just shows life does not always remain the same. We do
Hmm.
have to be prepared for tomorrow. And this is a new territory for Seema. I would love, I'm not gonna lie, I would love a little backstory on who Seema was before she became that real estate agent,
Yes.
to understand like who where she came from.
Yeah.
But yeah, nah, she should have ran for the hills, child. I mean, I would have ran for the hills, and I don't even spend that much on my lashes, but I still would have ran.
Look, you just informed me that lashes cost 250 to 250 for lashes.
On the expensive side. Most start at about 140.
I'm sorry, you didn't make it better. The eyelashes. People are paying. Look, okay. I'm just a man. I did not know eyelashes were this valuable.
Listen, it's a whole thing, right? That's why women were like, well, I gotta get my lashes done, my eyebrows, I gotta get my hair done, my nails done, my feet done. Some of those things are optional. All of them, quite frankly, are optional, except for my eyebrows. If it's one thing that's gonna be done on my face, it's absolutely gonna be my eyebrows. And secondary, my hair, because I can do my hair myself, but I can't do my eyebrows myself. So I have
that's
tried.
that's just
I was
that's
the
just
girl with
amazing.
the little slit in her. I sure did try that one time, back in my younger days. I thought it was cool. Should I do it now if it was still cool? I'm not gonna lie, because I mean I just felt a little gangster with it, just a little
I'm just
thug slash.
so every time men we think we've caught up the women with now barbers with lights figuring they could charge $100 for a haircut. Like we thinking we up there with women, and then all of a sudden they tell you that lashes can cost $140 on a good day. Like that's a good deal. $140 for lashes. If you paid, they better stay in your head at least 3 weeks. At
Oh, at
least.
least, at least, honestly, if you do good in this heat, not so much, right? The heat will melt you, so that's an unfortunate side effect. However, at least a good 3 to 4 weeks. So you are, I mean, you get your money's worth, At least I think so.
At this point, let's just focus on the rest of Seema's arc in this episode. As later on, she goes to Carrie house, and this is when we see the side effects of going to the cheap lash tech to get the work done. But also here, we finally get something that's been brewing over the last couple of episodes, and that is her and Carrie's gardener slash lawn man as they are finally kicking it off here. And it starts here with a little aggressive type of flirting that Seema does, and he just bounces it perfectly off of her to the extent where eventually Seema finds out he's not involved with someone. He eventually meets her at the party as she shows up with the best eye patch ever,
The
a
best
Louis
iPad,
Vuitton, a Louis Vuitton eye patch,
of course.
which if I'm going to wear an eye patch, it's going to be a Louis Vuitton eye patch.
It's absolutely going to be Louis Vuitton.
But here they fully kick it off, fully have the conversations that we've been waiting for them to have, to the extent that he ends up singing a song for her at Charlotte's party, and then they leave the party together. What do you think about Seema? We saw in the first episode how it was always the pursuit of love, and we saw how she was running through men. Do you think that her current financial situation plays a part in her being open to date someone like this now?
No, no. I would have said that if her personality was different, but Seema's personality is very much, she was fighting it, because we see her in the first, what, we're in episode 7 now, so the first 6 episodes, or let's first 3 maybe, or not even 3, but the last 3, right? So like from episode 3 on, she's fighting this attraction that she has to him, his quick wit, his comedy, his gentlemanness, you know. And so I think that she's like, well, why fight it, right? Like, you get to a certain point where even if you're unsure, if you feel something, you feel something. So like, you get to that space where you're like, well, why fight it? Because at this point, I think it's more so like, what do I have to lose, versus the like, I lost stuff, so here I am. But I think it's more for Seema, I think it's more like, well, what do I have to lose, right? Like, I didn't, you know, take the job offer that the firm was giving me. You know, I didn't get the business loan. I went to a cheap lash tech. You know what I mean? Like, what else could possibly go wrong? But in the best of ways, I think she's learning to just be free, to like just be like, just live in the moment, right? Because when you have too many barriers, like too many rules, too many like, oh, I need this, I need that, I need this, you miss out on certain people and on certain things. So I think she's at that space now where she's just like, why not?
It's just kind of surprising that a woman of Seema's age, and I'm not saying it like she's old, but I'm accustomed, for men and women, like those barriers tend to drop in your mid-30s. The unrealistic expectations of things, like they have to be perfect. They have 800 credit score. They have to be this. They have to go to church every Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever it is that you feel like is that astronomical thing that your partner must come to the table with, or you couldn't possibly be together. But then as you live a life and you realize that's not realistic. If I've lived the life, they lived the life. And then you get to those core elements that you need to have in a partner. And those are the most important elements of it. And it's normally only 2 or 3 things, which is very weird. Your list can start off at 80. And then
the
it
list
will
is starting
dwindle
off at
down.
100 for sure.
Yeah. Hey, you don't have to tell me. Fashion was part of my list at one point. Like, look,
Oh,
if
I
you didn't
believe it
dress
was,
proper,
because you heel shamed me multiple years, y'all. I dealt with heel shaming from Lucas, okay? And you know how I know that he's grown up? Because my wedding heels were about this high and he didn't have anything to say. And I was like, well, look what the cat dragged in.
but again, yeah, those are the unrealistic expectations. And I think for Seema here, I just think it possibly plays a part in it, of her realizing, especially from the way we began the season, with her running through men. And now you do, as you pointed out brilliantly, you get someone who's witty and the banter fits, and you're trying not to be attracted to this person. But then also with her current situation, I think it leaves you more open, because now she's more vulnerable. And that's something we haven't seen from Seema in the 2 years, because she's always been the strong, confident one. But now with everything falling around her, I think it leaves her vulnerable enough to accept that maybe this is somebody I should be with. And I think that's going to be a very interesting dynamic to see with Seema moving forward.
And I always also think that it's the opportunity for her to see herself without the stuff.
Yes.
Without the stuff. Because
not
you
without the
are
Louis
more
Vuitton eye patch.
Yeah.
But everything else.
Everything else.
Her wardrobe is still amazingly expensive. She just has to catch an Uber, which is insane to me that that's a
Hey,
problem.
listen, they have Uber Black, okay?
And if you ever caught an Uber in anywhere in New York and in Manhattan, which they are clearly in, that is an $80 Uber ride to go 2 blocks.
Yes,
Now,
facts. That ass.
but now let's focus on the Charlotte and Harry of it all in this episode. As is, we already brought up that it is Charlotte's birthday and it's a huge event for her. First, what did you just think about the emphasis being placed on her by Carrie, who understood to step up for a friend when her friend was in need?
I mean, that's what I would expect. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense, and that's how you know your friends know you, because
Yeah,
if they would have told her beforehand, I think that she might have shied away from that in terms of how big it was going to be. But I
yeah,
think that, she knew what her friend needed, and that's how friendships work. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Sometimes you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. And I think that's the best way to have it, because
yeah.
now your people can show up for you and you can alleviate some of that
Mhm.
stress, that weight that's on you, and just enjoy, even if it's just for a moment in time. So I
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
idea that Carrie was like, let's do this for Charlotte. And she seems to be in that moment, when we
yes,
see her at the scene, she seems to actually be enjoying herself and be happy. So that's a good thing.
yes, exactly. And now my favorite scene, not the best scene of the episode, but my favorite scene of the episode is when Charlotte is going shopping and she runs into Harry and Bonnie, who is Harry's personal shopper for Charlotte. This is just funny just because from a male perspective, and for some people out there from a husband's perspective, you will make the biggest thing out of something that doesn't matter that much. He was terrified that she would find out that he hired a personal shopper for her to buy all of her gifts, not thinking, I love you so much. I hired a personal shopper to buy you the perfect gifts. But the key element here with Bonnie is that Harry has told Bonnie about his cancer diagnosis because he said, I have to tell somebody. And I said last week, when he told her not to tell anyone, I said, to me, that was the most selfish thing a person could do, and we see it play out in this episode. What did you think about just the whole interaction with the personal shopper, and when Charlotte finds out that he told the personal shopper about his diagnosis?
So, first things first, I know that my husband finna watch this episode, and I absolutely want a personal shopper. So let's just get that out the way. Secondly, though, I love this scene as well
Yeah.
because of the first of all, Charlotte is mad chill for somebody
Yes.
whose husband has prostate cancer, whose daughter, just got broken up with and had a polyamorous relationship, who has a kid who no longer wants to be I guess gender normed and whatnot. So
Yeah.
like she's mad cool. Um but I do think that I mean we saw this coming because she had her moment last episode where she ran into Carrie. She officially broke down.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that Harry needed to do the same, because I mean you only have one person to confide in. And
Hmm.
so I think that he was wrong, and we both agree on that he was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's funny though, because however long he said that they've been married, and however long Bonnie has been
Yeah.
around as the shopper, it's like, well, damn, you got a real situation. I love when he goes meets your wife, and he's talking to Bonnie like, meet your wife Charlotte, because essentially
You
you've been,
bought everything.
yeah. So I think that I thought that was pretty interesting, but I'm not surprised. I will say I'm not as surprised as I thought I would be, because when you're talking about somebody who you've known for years, who's been doing something so personal for you, because it really is personal to have somebody shop for your
Yes.
wife, even though you are
Hmm.
together, you're not sure like what to get. And again, like you said, making too much out of nothing. Like at this point, she loves you. She wants you to be
Yes,
healthy. Any
exactly.
gift that you got her would have been just fine. But I do think that it is interesting because also it made me think about, well, who are Harry's friends?
That's another thing. We've not really seen Harry have friends. And this is a very interesting dynamic because that's normally who you would go to share this information to is who's your best friend? Who's that guy who or girl you can always depend on and you could tell them anything and it'd be fine. And they've never displayed that with Harry. So here it would make sense. The only person he's close with is the person he pays to shop for his wife. That is insane, but that perfectly makes sense for Harry to have to do. And it is a conversation that I definitely brought up last episode. As I said, when you get that diagnosis of cancer, again, I know because I got it. When you get it, you tell people you're close to because you need a support system or you need a vow because it feels like pressure is building up. Someone has to get this information from me so I can get back to normal. And now it makes sense why last episode Harry was so calm about everything. Oh, I'm watching the
This
game.
is
I'm doing it.
true.
You're not
Yeah.
going to ruin this for me, Charlotte. He had already confided in somebody about everything. So a weight was lifted off of his shoulders. Here with Charlotte, we see she seems so light now because Carrie knows what's happening here. So a weight has been lifted off of her shoulder. So it's a great setup for the best scene of the episode. And that is the scene where first Miranda, being Miranda, says the worst thing humanly possible to Harry, and she doesn't know it by telling Harry, you know what, with everything that's going on, if a loss happens, Charlotte will be okay because we'll be there for her. And it triggers Harry to ask Charlotte, did she tell Miranda? And then it triggers Charlotte to ask Carrie. Carrie tells Charlotte the lie, but in the midst of all of these lies being told, and Charlotte telling Harry the lie, Harry decides to gather up all her friends at the party and tell them, hey, this is what's going on. And I need you all to know. And I shouldn't have told her not to tell you all in the first place. And then Charlotte says, this is the best birthday gift ever. What did you just think about that moment of, to me, power and honesty that you get from Harry, where he can openly admit, I should have never told you to keep this secret in the first place.
Again, this is one of those things where I'm just like, as a married couple, looking at something like this, it goes back to, I remember making a joke in therapy saying like, I think majority of my healthiest relationship, which is now with my husband, has been like apologizing. Like I ain't never said that many apologies. I can't be held accountable no matter what those Instagram reels are saying. So I think that is just very interesting, but it in the best way possible. It's freedom, right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
transparency, the vulnerability, the trusting that your partner will hear you when you apologize. And also, again, Harry is holding this and taking it on, obviously, because he's going through it, but
Yeah.
also trying to take the weight off of Charlotte. And so now that he said, hey, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done that, she needs you guys, and here's the deal. And even going as far as to say, I'm having surgery next week, and we're staying
Yeah.
ahead of it. That part for me was really, it just really spoke volumes. Like Charlotte said, the best birthday gift ever, because she doesn't have to be in this alone or just with one person, because she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like she has to hide and keep the secret. And also because now neither does he.
Yeah. And like the good part is at this point, the only people that don't know is the kids. Like that's it. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be a different type of conversation. But to now have, as we pointed out, Harry doesn't really have friends. His friends are her friends. So for now, for everyone to know, hopefully that will lighten the load. We got the quick scene with him and Herbert, and he's like, finally, someone who cares that I'm here. And it was another male in the room. So Lisa's there. She finds out this information. You know, Herbert's going to find out this information. Maybe that's that other support male that's going to help Harry out in this situation because you're going to need as much
True.
support as possible. No matter
Yeah.
how early it's caught, no matter what anything is, it's still going to be the support that you need. And to now have all of these people who you're already close with, who your children consider their aunts and uncles in certain situations, like it's perfect. Everyone knows now. Now that everyone knows, now we get a plan of action here. So when Charlotte needs that person to lean on, you're there. When Harry needs that person to lean on, you're there. Like this was an extremely touching scene to me. And again, accountability is the best thing in the world for anyone to have in any form, whether it's a marriage, a relationship, a friendship, anything. Accountability is the most important thing to have. And for them to have Harry just be 100% accountable for everything, it was brilliant to me. A brilliant way to set that up. Next up, we're just going to talk about the party and Miranda and balloons and karaoke machines. Now, me personally, I like balloons. Me personally, I would love a karaoke machine. What we're not going to do is then have a depressed 16-year-old sing revolutionary songs during my birthday party as Lisa and Herbert's son has decided to do throughout the whole midst of it. Not going to focus just on his performance, which was hilarious to me. Just in general, we see the conflict a bit between Carrie and Miranda about what a birthday party is supposed to look like. Have you ever had a situation where you've had conflicting visions of something and then it not work out well? Because Carrie thinks elegant, upscale as she is, and Miranda's thinking fun. Like you're telling me Charlie needs fun. We need to have fun here. Like, what did you think about that conflict between them two on what the party should be? Down to Carrie kind of shaming a little bit Miranda's place and saying, no, we need a place bigger than yours because people.
Well, I was thinking more so that, I didn't really consider it shade. However, I did think that, well, the balloons, cool. Karaoke, cool. But they are 20 adults and one child. There's no reason why that one child or three children, right, should be singing songs at this 50, 40 something year old party that does not fit the theme. And I will go as far as to say Carrie and Miranda didn't have a real conversation about what the vision actually
Yeah.
was. So if you don't discuss the vision and you don't talk about what is supposed to, what the theme is, how you want it to look, how you envision it, what you think
Yeah.
Charlotte needs, and you're only going into two separate directions, then yeah, it's gonna turn out like how it turned out because it was mortifying. And at some point, I don't understand why nobody just stepped in. He did 4 songs. Stop him at the second one. Like, get him out of here. Take the mic out of his hand. Unplug the karaoke machine. Something. Give me something.
Hey, look, if as a parent, if you don't sit your tail down somewhere, we are not here for you to put on a concert. Absolutely not. I'm gonna give you one song, and then it's gonna go to somebody else, or it's a karaoke machine. I'm pretty sure we can just play music. We can have music playing in the background. We don't need people to sing the whole time. But again, it was rich people problems with rich kids who like Broadway and other shows and things of this nature. This is something that, we'll experience when we have children because our children will be rich and they will be spoiled and they will be singing Broadway shows all the time. But the perspective of us growing up, this was uncalled. Like at an adult party, you wasn't even allowed to be there, no matter whose party it was, let alone do the things we have here. But also with the party, just became I'm gonna call it the Carrie and Duncan effect here, as we see them getting a little closer here. And it's a vibe out over the books as we get Duncan, who also returns Carrie's book and lets her know how brilliant her first chapter is. He says, down to your first words. of the book and just how amazing of a way that was to start off everything. And then we fast forward to by the end of the night, as Miranda brings up, it's amazing and good to see you have fun. And this little spark between you and Duncan, and then bring it up to Carrie. I read your book because you left it around as Miranda brings up the first line in the book and saying, I thought this was about you. And I'm sorry if it's not. And we see Carrie get instantly mad about it. What did you just think about that revelation? Because I've always assumed the book was about Carrie. And now for her to try to say it's not about me, but in a very defensive way because of her relationship with Aiden, which a lot here she's extremely defensive of, which kind of contradicts what she literally said in last episode about their relationship.
I'm about done. I've been done with Carrie's ass since the season started. I'm even more done. We've talked about this before in terms of what happens when you're overly sensitive to comments that your friends make, right? And it only stings or bothers you when there's some truth to it. Or not even when there's some truth to it, but when there is truth to it for you, if that makes sense, right? Because I think Miranda was being very sincere. It's good to see you have the spark. Doesn't have to be romantic. It could just be you're writing again. Now you have another writer. Duncan is a super amazing writer because she herself is just very enamored with his work, right? So it's great to see you have this spark of creativity of who you once were before. It's so good to have that back, to see you just having fun and not thinking about everything else going on. I don't think there was anything wrong with what Miranda said at all. I think that Carrie needs to come to grips with herself. This is a tiresome little round, the merry-go-round she's got going on, right? Nobody was saying anything to her feelings or to make it seem like they were coming down on Aiden. And even her snarky remarks, because everybody's relationship can't be, all rainbows and unicorns. And you've been in your relationship, 4 weeks? Aiden have been on 20 years. It's just not, when you're in your feels, when you are feeling things that you haven't spoken up on, whether it's to your friends or to the man you're supposed to be dating, you will become that snappy person. I didn't like that for her. And what I didn't like even more was the conversation that they had ending. It didn't feel like it was resolved. It felt like it was pushed under the rug. Because this is like their third brushing at this point. This is like their third brushing. I think that, and Miranda is just very honest, very rough honest, but I think she's gotten more, and I take that back. I don't think that she's rough honest. I think she's somebody who has dry humor, because that first go round, I will say that maybe her humor didn't match up. The second time, I think that she just was, stating facts. And now this time she was literally just really just making a compliment of something completely outside of it. But Carrie only heard it in one way, which caused that whole conversation for them to have. I just don't like the fact that it doesn't seem resolved, and it feels like their friendship is getting ready to take a hit because Carrie won't be honest with herself, and also because they're not having a real resolved conversation about what's happening.
It's as we talked about it before, it's her friends wanting more for her out of this relationship that Carrie wants for herself. It's two key parts that I paid attention to the most here. The first one was Carrie saying, your relationship's only been 4 weeks. Man, Aiden has been in this for 20 years, but you haven't been. You literally left him, dated other people, married big pass, and then you got back with Aiden. So then that's a lot of pressure to put on what should be for her a new relationship and play it like it's a 20-year portion of it when it can't be, Because Aiden is still dealing with having an ex-wife, having children, having all of these elements that didn't exist when you two were together at one point in time. So that was key to pay attention to. And the other part was Miranda telling Carrie, it just comes across as you're working too hard to make this work with Aiden. And that is a statement that I believe it hit Carrie at her core, because it is true. Like, she's working extremely hard to keep this thing together with Aiden. But again, it plays in complete contrast to what Carrie told Aiden last episode when she found out he slept with his ex-wife. With her saying, I thought we were just on a pause. How do we go from a pause to a relationship? Could this be, and this is a good question for you and the audience, could this be Carrie? She's not being honest and upfront with her friends about her relationship with Aiden. And because she's not, is this a mask that she's presenting to Miranda? Because she knows that it's not true, but she does not want Miranda to know the truth.
Oh, absolutely, 1,000%. Because I believe Miranda already knows the truth, right? Whether Carrie's saying it or not, because Charlotte and Lisa and Seema have seemingly like
Yeah.
kind of giving it like, all right, she's sensitive about that. I'm gonna just go ahead and stay up off of that type of energy.
Hmm.
Whereas even though Miranda's not really trying to stay in it, she just makes mention and it somehow creates this weird energy that Carrie doesn't want to discuss. I think that I think absolutely it's a mask. And she knows that she's wearing it, which is why she's writing this book. I don't understand. I think that it's crazy for her to say that's not her,
Yeah.
because it she wants it to be fiction so bad, but she started writing I guess after that phone call with Aiden, I think, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. And
Hmm.
she continued writing on the journey when she was there, now that she's back. So for me, I think she doesn't like this part of herself.
Yeah.
I think that she
That's
doesn't
the
like this
good
part
part.
of
Yeah.
herself. She's not willing to acknowledge it. And when you don't acknowledge piece of you that is current, that does, create issues for other things to start to creep in. And I think that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So like I said, her and Miranda's friendship is gonna take a hit.
Unfortunately, that's what it looks like. And I think it could be a chance eventually that all of her friendships do, until she's willing to be honest with what this is, including with Duncan, because Duncan is clearly an obstacle that presented itself that she wasn't prepared for, and now she's going to have to deal with. And that is it okay to keep on pursuing Aiden when he's not available to you if you have someone who could be available to you here that you're trying to put off to the side? It's going to just be an interesting dynamic moving forward. But what are your final thoughts on episode 7?
Well, I mean, it's probably, I don't want to say that. I was going to say it's probably the best episode, but
I
um,
said that. I said that when I watched it. I said this is the best episode of the season.
yeah, I will say that it's probably the best episode of the season because we're starting to see the characters the way growth that they're showing growth.
Yes.
Because I feel like sometimes we don't actually have um but I would just say for the last couple of episodes, I've been seeing it, and I feel like it was
Yeah.
leading up to this moment. And we're at episode 7. How many episodes will we get? Because if we're only gonna get 8,
10.
then okay, so 10. I figured it was gonna be 10, but
Yeah.
I am very interested to see like how this shifts. What I like is you have to constantly grow.
Mm-hmm.
You don't turn 50 and stop growing. Like you have
There
to
you go.
continue to grow. And so what this show is doing is pushing its limits with what these older friendships look like. What does being held accountable, like you said, look like? What does
Mm-hmm.
being honest, transparent, vulnerable, taking the mask off? What does it look like? What does wearing your mask look like?
Mm-hmm.
Because, people wear masks all the time, but they don't really recognize that that's what it is. You have to do some really deep self reflection to be like, oh, I'm wearing a mask right now. Like I probably learned that at like I maybe probably like 35-ish. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this mask is crazy. But
Yes.
but having friends in your life that can mirror you in the best ways possible and to remind you like you don't need it, so I this episode was good. It's a lot of different elements that show you friendships, that show you marriages, new relationships, new friendships, new romantic possibilities. So yeah, it was my favorite episode.
Yeah. I think this episode is starting to hit the promise of what the show needs to be. And I think for the audience, I think the hardest thing to grasp about this show is that it's not Sex in the City. But then you have to also grasp that these are older women. So when you play it as older women, these are still very complicated relationships. Because besides Charlotte, we're and Lisa, we're dealing with three other single women in their 50s. The dating pool it is extremely shallow. And forget P, as everyone says it has in it. It has acid in it at 50. Like
Not
it is hard
acid.
to
It's UTIs in that pool.
Yes, exactly. HPVs, it's everything in that pool now at
I'm done with
50.
you, sir. Let's get out
It's
of here.
in that pool at 50. So when we see the way Carrie is struggling with Aiden, it helps it make more sense for older women who just lost her husband, that you always got to remember, and she's looking for that other connection. It makes sense with a person like Seema, who now that she's extremely vulnerable and she's more open to it, because part of her issue, as we saw at the beginning of the season, was she was just so rough and honest. But you can't be that way when now you're the sensitive one, where you don't feel as confident as your cousin of feeling. Down to Miranda, who finally jumped out there with someone, and now she's in love, and we see it playing out differently for her than it did with Shay and the way their relationship worked, or even with Steve and the way that relationship worked with Joy. Again, these are elements that needed to happen, and I think in this episode, a lot of it finally looks like it's going to come to fruition to give a clear picture of what this season is fully about. But let us know what you all think. Let us know what you think about Giuseppe, Gia, and Anthony, and how is this dynamic going to play out with her now deciding she wants to stay in New York a little longer. Let us know what you think about Charlotte and Harry. And now, with the big secret out there for everyone to know about it, how will this play with their relationship and with their children? Because eventually that's a conversation that's going to have to happen. And how will that, along with everything else that Lily and Rock are going through, how is that going to affect the family dynamic that has been the strongest dynamic of the show so far? And then what do you think about Seema and her new love interest? Is this finally what Seema has been waiting for, as a man who she fully accepts who they are and is willing to pursue it? And finally, what do you think about Carrie, Duncan, and Aiden? And how will this newly formed love triangle work out for Carrie? Will she still put her cards in the corner for Aiden and wait for him? Or is she willing to open herself up to new love? Like, comment, subscribe, get in those sections like y'all do every week. And we're greatly appreciative of it as you all comment and immediately watch, as this is one of the biggest things we do for Big Gold Belt is this review. So we're eternally grateful for every week for y'all tuning in. Again, you can catch us right after the episode drops Thursday evening. Come here, check us out, or watch the episode and check us out, or watch us and then check out the episode, or just watch us, and we're perfectly fine with that if necessary. And just watch clips on Instagram and TikTok of the episode. We're perfectly fine with that also. This has been another recap review of the hit HBO Max show. And just like that, peace, people.